All right, good evening, everyone. If you want to take a seat, we can get started shortly. All right, good evening, everyone. My name's Tony Chubb. I'm the city attorney for the city of Pontiac. Thank you, first of all, for coming out tonight. We really appreciate the input from the citizens because what we're here to talk about tonight is really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As you may have heard in the mayor's video, first of all, she apologized she was not able to be here tonight. The city has been given a grant of $37.7 million in federal funds that we are going to spend over the next several years, and we're looking for input from the citizens to figure out how that money should be spent. And so tonight we'll talk about how we got the money and the different ways we can spend the money and the different things we can't do with the money. There are 5 general categories under which the money can be spent. It's restoring neighborhoods and citizen relief, it's infrastructure improvements, it's public safety, business development and job creation, and smart city initiatives. And so tonight we've assembled a team of experts that are to my left and right here. They're going to tell you about all of those, what those mean, and how we could use those to benefit the city of Pontiac. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for the evening, Alex Borngesser.
So much for coming. So our night will be spent in a couple of different ways. We'll start off by hearing from our panelists about eligible uses and permissible uses for these funds. We'll hear about business development, current city projects that can be continued using ARP funding, water and sewer infrastructure opportunities, and how we can leverage these funds from our various panelists. And then we'll go into a question and answer portion where I can take these little white forms and read the questions off so I can direct them at the appropriate panelist. Following that, we'll go into a breakout activity. We have tables set up around the room where we can put our ideas up on poster board and have conversation with city staff and engage in dialogue and ideation about how best to use these funds to better our community. We'll come back. We'll talk about key breakaways or key takeaways from our breakout tables, and then we'll go ahead and close out for the night. Does that sound okay to everybody? Good. Okay. I will first kick it over to Darren, who can talk about ARP eligibility requirements and a little bit of the particulars surrounding these funds.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out on this November evening. Briefly wanted to cover kind of some of the background with the ARP and some of the things involved with exactly how the money can be spent, or some of the requirements in terms of the money. As I'm sure you've already heard, the city of Pontiac has gotten an allocation of just under $38 million, about $37.7 million was received earlier this year from the federal government as a part of the American Rescue Plan Act. We refer to it as ARP. And in connection with that allocation, the money is being broken into 2 components, or into 2 payments, if you will. We've received the first half of the $37.7 million in June, so that money is in the city's coffers at this point. And we'll receive the second half of the $37.7 million sometime around the same time next year, so June of 2022 is when we're expected to receive the funding. So the funds are already available, or at least half of the funds are already available, and what we're embarking on now is to get an idea and hear from residents and supporters of Pontiac, such as yourselves, as to how we can best utilize these dollars. The ARP, as I'm sure you know, was really passed in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and that serves as the foundation for what the money is designed to be used for. Broadly, it's designed to help offset the health and economic impacts, the negative impacts from COVID, and that kind of serves as the broad parameters for what the allowable uses are for the funding. The first is really a general response, or providing funding for supporting a response to the public health the negative public health implications that were associated with COVID. And this is a pretty broad category that can be anything from, providing information or education on health related to the pandemic or health concerns in a particular population. Could be tied to vaccination. It could be tied to diet. Anything that has a direct or indirect connection with the public health response would be the first category. The next category would be looking at a similar type of impact on the economic side. So that could be anything related to the negative economic impacts that have been associated with this pandemic, loss of jobs, loss of income. When we look at potential funding mechanisms through this category, we're talking about job training. It could be financial literacy. It could be helping people with mortgage assistance, home repair. Again, a broad type of categories is what we're looking at. The next two categories are somewhat kind of internal to government operations. One is to help governments replace any lost funding, be it things such as income tax or any type of tax revenue that was lost. And then we also have the category that deals with what we refer to as hazard pay or pay for essential workers. The last category that I would touch upon, the fifth, is going to be related to infrastructure. And I would point out that excluded from this is direct funding for any road projects. So we're talking about largely water and sewer infrastructure that you'll hear about, which can be tied indirectly to a road project, as well as internet, broadband type of technology. So those are kind of the broad categories. The thing that I would really stress is that this program, again, was designed to be very general in terms of so that there are types of requirements, that the categories are pretty broad, so it allows for some flexibility in terms of how we use this money, because it's designed to address these types of problems in a very broad and general sense. And so I'm going to stop there and be here for any questions that you may have. The last point that I do want to make is the timing of the funding. As I mentioned, half of the funding has been received. In general, we have 3 years from December to spend this money, but you also have an additional time for if a project is been approved and started 3 years from now, so that provides some additional time. But in general, we're talking about to December 2024 in order to utilize this funds. But that is really the kind of the initial deadline, but there is flexibility in that December 2024 deadline.
So much, Jaron. Next up, we have Lynette Phillips, who is the Director of Economic Development for the city, and she's going to talk to us about business development, small businesses, and proposed funding opportunities for small businesses.
Hi, good evening, and thank you, Alex. So as Darren said, that there really are like 5 broad categories for how the funding can be spent. But within the city of Pontiac, as we're hosting these town halls and looking at ways and that we can spend the money, we're looking at certain types of projects. So one of the areas that I'm going to focus on, because we talk about small business support, workers and family programs, and investing in housing and neighborhoods, are really one of the buckets that fits into the broader categories. So when we talk about small business support, which could be comprised of funding for small businesses like gap funding, gap loans, micro loans, and revolving loans for small businesses. What we're doing is we're going to look at our ARP funds and see how we can take a portion of that money and allocate it to small businesses, and also also leverage those funds with other funds from both the county and the state, and also within other sources. So like for gap funding, for a grant for a business could be like a one-time grant up to perhaps $5,000 or even $10,000, which would be something pretty immediate. And then we would have a micro loan, which could be a loan that would be up to $10,000 or $15,000. And we haven't worked all these details out yet. We have draft plans and proposals that we're putting together. And then the revolving loan, which would be a larger loan that a small business would apply for, which could be up to perhaps $50,000. We've looked at some other communities. For instance, Detroit has already proposed their program, which is for $40 million. Of course, they got significantly more than the city of Detroit, but it was about 5% of their ARP funding actually went to small businesses. So if we looked at that here in the city of Pontiac, that could be perhaps $1.5 to $2 million. And if that fund was leveraged with other sources, then we could actually provide, support to small businesses. Now, we also would look at some kind of training and workforce development component that would also complement that, because many times businesses need, training and a source in terms of how to go to so that people are prepared. We're looking at some programs that really, again, would support the small business, be it subject matter experts, various people to come to, businesses, and then provide a forum for these businesses to either in a form of a pop-up, have a location, or even some type of a permanent location. So that's one area that, the small businesses, the funding could be allocated for that. Another one, which fits into the broader category, would be citizen relief programs. And this would be to assist with either affordable housing. And we know that here in the city of Pontiac that approximately 60% of our residents rent. So we could also look at home ownership programs, which would be another form to provide some citizen relief where, we would, again, the city, we can't do it all by ourselves. This is where we would reach out and probably partner with some type of entity or some type of agency to assist with, financial literacy types of programs. Literacy programs also to, again, help people prepare to, own property and to own their homes or rent to own. And we would look at those types of situations, again, across the table. Right now, the rent, mortgage, and utility grant program is available through Oakland County. And this is like the third round of that funding. So people that have been behind in their rent, their mortgage, or their utilities as a result of COVID, there's actually funding available to assist and pay that money back. The money actually goes to the landlord or the mortgage company or the utility company, but that's a program that the city of Pontiac has partnered with Oakland County on. That's pretty much what I'm covering. I'll be around to answer any questions or provide any additional information. Thank you, and thank you, Alex.
Next up, we have Vern. Vern is the planning director for the city of Pontiac, and he's going to talk to us about proposed ARP funding for current projects or projects that are already on the city's radar, and some of the nonprofit funding opportunities that came from our nonprofit town hall.
Very good. Thank you, Alex. Good evening, everybody. Vern Gustafson. I guess when you think about it in regards to the city's involvement in nonprofits, in regards to how this process will all lay out, it could be complex, but it could be done in a very good way and effective way with, as Lynette was referring to, the process and how it is rolled out. So we have a clear understanding. And, as a colleague once said that worked in another community, who said, this is like building the plane as we fly. And that, to simplify it, as follow up in regards to what Darren had mentioned and also Lynette, think about it in regards to two buckets. One would be as kind of relief and recovery for individuals that were hard hit by the pandemic, and also investment in the community from an economic development side, from a social side, and also from an infrastructure side. And I think we need to think about it also in regards to in the future. 10 years from now, did you, how did, to look back at this time and 10 years from now, did we merely spend the money or did we invest it for the future of Pontiac? And that's how I want you to think about these various projects that from your insight. So just to simplify a little bit more, when we talk about what current projects have been going on for a number of years during the mayor's administration here, we've done a great job in regards to demolition of county and also Michigan Land Bank structures within residential neighborhoods and also some commercial. Same thing with Lynette's guidance using block grant dollars to demolish, I think roughly at this time was close to 900 homes.
Close to 1,000 properties have been demolished.
Yeah. Yeah. And more needs to be done. Our code enforcement staff has been working very hard in regards to neighborhood blight abatement on city properties and also on private property. And definitely with Abul Siddiqui, our city engineer, working on sidewalk improvements and other infrastructure improvements. But I think it's important, and I think Lynette hit on some of the various projects, but in thinking about it more from encouraging development and redevelopment of our neighborhoods and our commercial areas, I think it's also important that we focus in regards to maybe improving or the disposition of vacant land that is government owned, that can go back to private ownership or go back into additional parks and open space for the community. I think it's very important in regards to what I'm understanding and seeing here, being here in the community for the last several years, is regards to home ownership counseling. Same thing with job skill training, particularly on the public health sector. Food assistance, we talk about healthy eating and healthy living. I think here is a great opportunity in regards to maybe a potential project. You probably heard it around or seen it around here in regards to the Pontiac Farmers Market, kind of that growing that kind of group into a stronger, resilient, ever-changing, adapting to the community needs. Definitely looking at youth programs and facilities. Strong component that I'm very strongly supportive of is in regards to mental health and also domestic violence. In regards to that type of counseling. Again, that goes back to building stronger neighborhoods. We're talking about recovery for those particular neighborhoods. Neighborhood beautification, talk about parks, and in regards to even the skate park project, which you probably also heard about, looking at building a skate park project here. They received a potential grant through the skate park project, which used to be the Tony Hawk Foundation. Looking at that opportunity, if they can leverage through grants and funding of $250,000, that funding source will match whatever they could get to equal that of another $250,000 to build on or create and construct a skate park project in one of our community parks here in the city of Pontiac. And lastly, I think it's important to also consider arts and culture institutions. That being many of them, as you know, are located throughout. You have the Pontiac Transportation Museum, you have the Pontiac Creative Arts Center, just to name a few that could utilize some of these funds to garner their support to improve upon the arts and culture and also the history of the automotive industry here in the city of Pontiac, just to name a few. I think that is something that we should all start to be considering, not just that one project, but many projects that could be leveraged with your support and your guidance through this discussion here tonight. Thank you. Alex, thank you.
Vern. Next up, we have Abdul, who's going to talk. He's a city engineer, and he's going to talk to you about water and sewer infrastructure and some of the things happening in DPW.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So as was mentioned previously by Darren and others, one of the eligible uses of these funds are infrastructure projects. But those infrastructure projects are limited to water, sewer, which would be sanitary or storm sewer, and broadband. Now, in the city of Pontiac, water is under the jurisdiction of the Oakland County Water Resource Commission. Sanitary sewer is also under the jurisdiction of the Oakland County Water Resource Commission. There are, and I know Matt will be speaking about this later, is leveraging funds so we could contribute towards their projects to, for example, replace private lead, private lead lines in the water system and so on, as a contribution towards their the lead line replacement projects that they have ongoing. And then the broadband is something that will be discussed by Matt as well in the Smart City initiative. Now, what the city has jurisdiction over is the storm sewer system. And what does that system consist of in the city? We've got, can you go to the next slide here? So we've got about 8,500 catch basins throughout the city, 5,400 manholes, 21 overflow structures, 148 outfalls into the lakes and rivers, and then 246 almost miles of storm sewers, compared to 229 miles of road. So we have more storm sewers than roads, right? But the roads are more visible, obviously. So now these storm sewers range from 4 inches to 9 feet in diameter. The circular ones, 9 feet in diameter. So, most of us can walk through the bigger ones, and then the box pipes, there's some box pipes as well that are 7.5 to 12 feet in dimension. And most of the system is around 100 years old. Typically these are designed for 50-year lifespans, but they've well exceeded that. Next slide, Ken. So storm sewer is the storm sewer network, let's say, is the system that collects rainfall after it falls, the runoff from a rainstorm, gets it off the roads, off the sidewalks, and so on. So the first point of entry is the catch basins, or what a lot of people, when they complain, they call the drains. So the catch basins or the drains, that's the first point of entry, and we're looking at, what did we say, about 8,500 of those throughout the city. And then it goes into manholes and sewers, the pipes that are underground, and to a lake or a river, and discharges over there through the outfalls. Now, the maintenance activities that we currently have ongoing on this storm sewer network is that we inspect and we clean all the catch basins or the drains throughout the city on a 5-year rotation. That's what's required of us by the state. Sometimes we clean it in 3 years, sometimes we clean it in 4 years, but the requirement is within 5 years you have to clean all of them once. And then we inspect and repair storm sewers as necessary as part of planned road projects. So for example, we did Walton Boulevard this year. We inspected the storm network in that area and came up with several repairs that we added to the project, and we made those repairs. But that doesn't really impact a large portion of the system. It's just limited scopes there. Then we sweep major streets twice per year and local streets once per year with rented street sweepers, which, especially at this time of the year, it cleans off the drains and allows the runoff to get off the avoid flooding here. And then mostly we're reactive. Mostly we're just reacting to complaints from residents. So as a complaint comes in, this drain is sunk, this catch basin sinking, there's a hole in the road because of the storm sewer probably, we react to those. We don't have any program in place right now where we're going out and inspecting all of our sewers, because most of the 246 miles of sewers, like I mentioned, they're all old. They're all exceeded their life expectancy, and we're not inspecting them on a regular basis like we should be doing. So if you go to the next slide there, you can see these are actually cases from the city here. You know, and we're probably talking about here 12, 15-inch diameter storm sewers here. Go on to the next one. These are from other cities, and like the one on the left, that's on the right, that's probably a much larger diameter pipe over there. Next one, Ken. And then this was a huge sewer that collapsed several years back in Sterling Heights. So if we don't take care of our system, eventually this is something that could happen, especially with those 9-foot diameter pipes that we have in some areas. Next slide, Ken. So our proposal as part of the ARP funds is to video, inspect, and clean all of our storm sewers, and also the structures associated with them, like the drains, the manholes, and so on. It could be over 4 or 5 years. It could be over 3 years. Just we could structure it even over 2 years, possibly. So the estimate that we have currently is to inspect and clean catch basins would be about $2 million. All the catch basins in the city, which we already do on a 5-year rotation. 1.25 million to inspect and clean all manholes and other structures. And then almost $8 million to inspect and clean all the sewers, all the pipes in the city. So that's a total of $11 million, and that's just to inspect, to video them, to identify what the weaknesses are, what needs to be addressed as far as what repairs need to be made. So then there's an additional cost on repairs, and that's something really, once we actually get into the pipes and see them, that's when we can really quantify that. Initially we could maybe throw out a number of $4 million or so for the highest priority repairs. Now, further ideas for the ARP funds related to storm sewers is to purchase street sweepers for the local roads so we can sweep the streets in-house more often instead of renting sweepers and possibly even using contractors. We can purchase Vector trucks to do catch basin cleaning in-house instead of outsourcing that to contractors. And then Giddings Road, you're all probably familiar, Giddings Road overtops, floods quite often. We're working with the Oakland County Water Resource Commission right now to conduct a study to determine what the issues are there. It's most likely related to the culvert there, and so replacement of the culvert would be eligible for ARP funds. And then there's the associated road reconstruction that would happen as part of that as well. And finally, there's sidewalks on the west side of Updike that could be installed, but they require significant drainage improvements on Updike and along Updike. So the ARP funds could also pay for a portion of that work as well. So if you have any questions, I'll be around and we can discuss infrastructure. Thank you.
Yeah.
one is we really need to, what I'm about to speak to next is trying to leverage the dollars that we're getting with the American Rescue Plan against those dollars that are coming into the county and to the state and other agencies, to be honest with you. So the Road Commission and other agencies, we really should be looking to partner with them. But with respect to my good friend, engineers for the DPW and for these types of services always look to the total project cost, meaning let's do everything. Let's make sure that we get every catch basin cleaned and every project that would qualify under this done at the same time. And so Abdul is looking at it as, if we do this right and we do it 100%, then my projects would cost 11 million. But it would be unreasonable for the city really to look at it and say we would leverage that percentage of this into one area. And so as much as my good friend would hope, it might be that we would leverage a portion of that budget into more targeted areas that were of critical need, and then look at longer term budget, because they do have a regular budget. All of our tax dollars, me as a business here paying taxes and you as residents paying taxes, it does go into a regular budget, which we've seen street projects and other things happen this year. And so I think the goal for this would be to really prioritize. And so if the public were to give a lot of feedback to the administration and working with our engineer and others to say, yeah, we really do want to address stormwater issues, we really want to do that, and then it would be to prioritize that. What are the areas in the city that are the most problematic, those that are most critically needed on the front end, and what are those that we could push off maybe 5 years so that we could prioritize other things? And so I think that's the exercise, is really to seek what would be the ability. I know if Lynette were to give her total proposal, her and I have been working on this from a small business and from a business development, and more critically from a workforce development, where we're looking at our labor force. We've had some comments from other prior town halls about those workers that quite frankly have been left behind a little bit in the skilled trade workforce, but more advanced in how we upskill those workers. Well, we could spend $6 million just on that if we really looked at the target. So we have to prioritize about where those efforts are really most significant, and I think it would be the same with engineering. Sorry, I always give long-winded answers, Alex, but should I just go into my section? Yeah, I'm the next speaker. So I'm Matthew Gibb. I'm really blessed that I was brought in February of, I don't know, a couple years ago now, I guess, special legal counsel for economic development and workforce and other issues with the city. And what I want to speak about is that leveraging funds. And so the uses for the ARP money are they seem broad, but they're limited. So we can't replace streets. We can't do certain things, but what could we do? So they're targeted on infrastructure like water. And so when we say, could we really address some of our service line issues to our houses? So all of you have been familiar with what's happening in Benton Harbor. I'm not going to bring up Flint, even though that's a tragedy as well. Pontiac is an older city. I mean, we have the same types of lead lines in our house where we bring water into our houses as a lot of cities do. And so this money could be used for that. It could be used to examine what houses are most critically at risk and what areas should we really be addressing. And I know Abdul, because he's way smarter than me, has already been looking at that as part of the good work that he does for the city. So we can't take that on. 37 million is not enough for us to replace all of the water lines to our houses, but could we look at prioritizing a portion of this money and then going to the state? So our good Senator Rosemary Bear was at a prior town hall, and she said, of course, the state is looking towards prioritizing replacement of problematic water lines, lead water lines and otherwise. Well, could we as a city be smart about what we're doing and say, we do want to do that, we want to engage in that, but as we're doing this, approach the state and say, could you also pledge money that you have? Because we're not the only place getting money that could help Pontiac. The county's getting a large ARP allocation. The state is more than $6 billion for the state. $6.4 billion for the state. And so how could a community as Pontiac not really get smart about what we're doing and say, well, if we're going to spend, say, $5 million, I'm just using a random number, on addressing some of our more dangerous lead water line conditions in our neighborhoods, well, why wouldn't we go ask the state and say, well, why don't you, if we're going to use 5, why wouldn't you use 15? And now we have $20 million that would go towards this. The state is very open and willing to have those conversations. And so as a community, these town halls are designed to get you thinking about it. We're hoping that you would say, one of the things we would expect of our administration and our council and our staff is that yeah, we want you to explore that. We want you to be bold and to ask for other outside resources. You know, some of the areas that are really interesting for us is that we could spend a small amount of money in our small business area, to pick up on what Lynette is talking about, and could we leverage that against the county to say we need to really better educate our young people on job opportunities and training opportunities, and better educate our young people on financial literacy. Quite frankly, I'm an old person. You could educate me on financial literacy. So if we could do that, then are there other programs out there that would partner with us? Well, the county has many, many programs that work in workforce development. They work in small business micro lending. They work in the ability to upskill workers. They work in the ability to provide transportation resources for people that are trying to get the jobs. Maybe they find the new job, we find the training, but they just can't get there. And so our job really as a city is to not say, okay, well, let's spend a small amount or a large amount of this money just on trying to create a better workforce, but can we use county resources and state resources to say, would you provide the transportation? And so this town hall is really to get us thinking about some of those things. But what I want to talk to tonight is the topic I haven't talked to at prior town halls, but is about smart city. One of the aspects of the American Rescue Plan is around broadband. Now, most of us know what broadband is. If I ask my children, they certainly know what broadband is, because if the Wi-Fi is not working at my house, then we hear about it because they can't do their homework or they can't watch their video or whatever they might be doing. So broadband is a very critical issue for all of us. It's a critical issue for our businesses. It's a critical issue for our young people. Almost 40% of our city doesn't have adequate access to broadband, meaning they can't get on the internet. And some would say, well, that's okay. You could go to the library, which is fine because it's a great resource. And some would say, well, there's other places where you could get on the internet. Or maybe you just have to go down the street and a phone that you have could get on the internet. But think about the young people in our community that we're really is the next generation. With virtual school, and that, some of that's coming back with other aspects. With I've been on more Zoom meetings and remote meetings in the last 2 years than I care to ever do again. The fact that our city is maybe 40% of our city doesn't have adequate access to the internet, to that broadband resource, is really a significant detriment for all of us. It means our young people can't do their homework at night. It means our small businesses that are in their homes can't do purchasing, and they can't do online sales, and they can't do those types of things. And so we have more fiber optic cabling in this city than really any city in Michigan, really any city in the Midwest, because General Motors has been here. And so when they built the OnStar facility in downtown, they made fiber go everywhere in the city. So we have it. The problem is that fiber doesn't connect to our houses. And so one of the great things about the ARP is it allows us to look at, can we spend portions of this money to connect our people to the internet? I'm being real plain about it. It's broader than that, but to the internet. But it goes beyond that. We could do so many dynamic things. There's been a lot of tragedies in our city in recent weeks. Just this past week, there's been more tragedy in our city with crime in our city. We have the ability, if we were to spend these monies on one of the three pillars of the American Rescue Plan, which is this broadband infrastructure, smart city, we could provide camera technologies. We could provide sound technologies that would allow our law enforcement to be more ready, to be more present, to be more influential in our neighborhoods. And so we could do that. We could say, well, Mr. Gibb, we can't spend all the money on this, but it might be a priority for us to spend part of it, right? And to say we could enhance our crime prevention by putting these technologies in our neighborhoods. And maybe we target some of these neighborhoods that are more, really just more struggling than others, that they're really trying hard, but they just need a little help. So we could do that from a crime prevention. We could also do things like on Perry Street, where we have so many accidents. There's intelligent transportation technologies that we could put into our intersections that would help us manage traffic better, and they would help us manage pedestrians better. So what happens on Perry Street is it gets dark, and there's so much traffic, and the lights are maybe not timed the right way they should be, and so we could install technology that would help drivers really identify pedestrians. And so if that technology is there, maybe we save a life, right? So the American Rescue Plan is really focused on smart cities in the sense of bringing internet service to all those in need so we can bring up the quality of education and the quality of access for so many people. But we could also be using it for crime prevention and crime monitoring. And we could also be using it for traffic safety and pedestrian safety in our communities. And so I know the administration is really looking at that. It's a complex topic, though. People say smart city. Well, what does that mean? It means a city that really talks to itself. It means we have technology where we can learn things about our traffic and about our people and the movement. And it's not really Big Brother. It's really about safety and alertness and well-being. And so that is a significant area for us to think about as well. If we're the most advanced city for fiber optic in Michigan, then maybe we could spend a little of this money and say, well, how do we connect that technology from the past to the technology of the future? So those are some additional thoughts. So I'll throw it back to you, Alex.
So these were wonderful presentations, a good first glance at what we can do with these funds and how we can better our community using them. Right now, normally I would take the white note cards from everyone and we would have a chance to read some of the questions, but we have a smaller group here. So does anyone have any questions for our panelists that you wanted to read from what you wrote down, or any specific questions that you wanted to ask an individual who's here today?
My name is Conway Thompson, a resident of the city for a long time. Mr. Abdul, you speaking about the sewer, and you said that you all normally clean them within 4 or 5 years. I would like for you to, when you get a chance, check your records and see when the last time the sewer was cleaned in the Galloway State. I've been there now a long time, and I've never seen anyone ever cleaning the sewer to start with. I wish I would have brought the pictures. I submitted some pictures to the mayor one day last week. The street flooded. The water was coming up halfway the driveways. That was from the last large rain we had here in the city.
Galloway Estate.
Say again?
Galloway Estate.
Galloway, it's on Williamson Circle. That's the name of the street. It's a condominium.
So it may be that those are private and not owned.
So
by
y'all
the
don't do
city.
those streets.
We'll take a look at it and see if those are private or public.
Well, I'll share now. It's a private street,
Oh.
But it's because that the builder that didn't build out the number of homes in the area. So we left there with no services from the city, but we still pay all the taxes, or more taxes than most residents, most other areas within the city. We don't get any services from the city other than the trash pickup. And yes, that's a big problem we have. You mentioned about, y'all were speaking about safety.
Sorry, and I just want to clarify that, so we clean, the sewers are the pipes that connect the system. We clean the drains, the inlet points, the catch basins is what we clean on a 5-year basis, not the pipes, right? But I understand you're probably talking about the drains,
The
right?
drain.
Yeah.
Okay? And you were speaking about safety and just a recommendation to see if this is possible. Throughout the city, we still have all of those old LED lights. When they come on, it look like the sun is just beginning to go down. Can this fund be used to replace those lights?
So it can. It would have to be presented in a way that we were incorporating smart city technology. So here's how it works, is that not only could we look at replacing some of these aging light fixtures, we just did it, our new partner in the Phoenix Center just replaced all the lights on the tunnel on Orchard Lake Auburn right there. So I used to avoid going underneath the Phoenix Center, but I drove it through yesterday, and I'm like, it's like daylight in here. It's really nice. And so the lighting does make a big difference. If we were to look at it and say we were going to do adaptive technology, meaning put in light fixtures that are not only brighter and better and safer and clearer for all of us, but that they were linked to a system that would be shutting those lights off at certain times and bringing them back up at certain times, that's a smart city. And so if we did that and we just used the right technology, then it would totally qualify under the American Rescue Plan. If we were just to say we're going to replace the bulbs with better bulbs, then they'd probably struggle a little bit with our explanation. And so it's that definition of how we do this. And so it would be a recommendation that say, well, in these areas we could replace the lighting that would be adaptive, and maybe we link that with the road commission. This is again where we leverage the money. So say we're going to spend $2 million on relighting in certain areas where we know they're really difficult. If we were to contact the road commission and the county and up through the Michigan Department of Transportation and say, we're going to be doing these projects, could we integrate some of this lighting technology with the signal intersections in certain these areas? Well, that's what the road commission is trying to improve with their ARP money. So it's a way for us to leverage that. So the answer is absolutely. We have to get a little bit creative and, well, not really creative. We have to get strategic on the way we use the technology. So it's not just a light bulb replacement, but that we're bringing this smart technology to our city, which I think is really, really a great thing if we could do it.
And you mentioned Perry Street. That's great if you're thinking along that line, because with the traffic, I know that when we had the Silver Dome along Featherstone, Updike, when the traffic built up in a certain area, switch, a person that's monitoring that, allow traffic to flow for a while on the main street until that you clear up all that traffic. So that would help some on Perry Street, especially in the morning, during your rush hour, and in the evening. It's just hard for residents to go home if they go up and down this street.
Yeah, and really smart technology around transportation is designed to understand traffic, meaning when there's too many cars and too many people and too many bicycles, that technology is designed to integrate with signals, and maybe we add some signals, we add some things that would be at a shared cost, because Perry Street is an MDOT road, as we all know. We've argued over should there have been bike lanes or not bike lanes, and MDOT has had their opinions. Well, if MDOT has all their opinions, well, they're getting a big bunch of this money too. And so maybe we would approach them and say, listen, we want to improve this so we can improve safety, and we want to do some smart city transportation technology, but you know what, state and MDOT, you need to come help us a little bit. And this is where I really want all of us as staff, but the public really to kind of insist on it, to say, don't go it alone, Pontiac. You've got these resources and these leaders, these political leaders. Let them show up and let us help with that. So I'm really a big advocate for trying to get some help.
One last question. I don't mean to be hogging all the question, but
you're a veteran. You deserve it. Come on. Let's go.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Veteran and a 25-year service
That's
person
awesome.
for the city.
Thank you for that.
As far as funding for public safety, as of now, the taxpayers is paying for Oakland County through our policing. With the funds that come in, can that fund that we are presently using from the tax base be reallocated to do other things within the city and use some of this $37 point some million and other funds that are going to be coming from the county to help offset that so that we can take our taxpayers and do some other work within the city?
So if I'm understanding, I think I'm going to kick this to Darren, our finance expert and director, that it really is a question of could we reallocate budget money that we have towards the sheriff's contract if we're using some of those money. So Darren, I'm sure you can comment.
Yeah. So in place already planned or normal expenditure of the city that can be used as it relates to the city's budget is replacement of lost revenue. So if the city, let's say, and there's a specific formula, but if the city lost this from income taxes because of decreased tax. Excuse me. The program for that, it's really focused on new project. using it to pay the Oakland County Sheriff would not generally be considered an allowable use. Now, if we had a specific program, some additional resources that we wanted to use towards public safety, that would fall under more of an allowable use. If we wanted to increase law enforcement or increase a specific type of patrol, then that would be an allowable use, but we really couldn't use it to help offset regular and normal costs that are already included in the budget.
Does anybody else have a question?
Oh, it's President Bethfield. Hey.
Everyone. My name is Jean Matthews, and concerned citizen here, and I'm concerned about everything you talked about. I want to thank you for being here to kind of clear up some of the things that we've heard about this plan. But one specific question I wanted to, maybe this is directed to you, Lynette, in restoring neighborhood and citizen relief. Right now, that comes under economic development. Is that right? Okay, so, right? And community development. So my question is, if we were to write this up in a way, because I think concerned citizens who have applied for small business loans or are getting help and relief, and they may not even understand, so they just become discouraged and just don't try anymore. Okay, so I just wondered, could the money or the funds be used for anything that's separate in the way that it's written up? Could there be an establishment of another office or center for citizens in regards to the community and restoring neighborhood? You understand my question? Okay, right now under economic development, so if we were to ask for a small business loan, say in my neighborhood, someone wanted to do a business. Okay, but your I guess maybe you can explain this to me, because I know there have been some concerns. We have meetings in regard to small business loan. That's under you, is that right? Okay, now you mentioned something about community block grants. That's under you. Okay. My question is, if we were to write this up as a concern, or one of the things we would like to see for people who wanted to apply for business loans, small business loans, and maybe for community grants, would that still come under your, maybe creating a position for someone? You got me now? Could we have someone to create a position specifically for these things? Because in the past, and it's still going on, so many people have applied for certain things, and they become discouraged because they forget about the timeline or they miss out. So my question is, can that fund?
I'm going to say yes, because a couple of ways that this could be approached. One, a small business loan for a business. Also, because the focus could be on some community development, it could actually even be some kind of neighborhood organization, like a block club or something, that could request funding to, do something in the neighborhood, in the community. So that's another option. And this is the type of feedback that we're really trying to garner. And I'm just going to give another example before we even had ARP funding. But I worked in Flint. And Flint used community development block grant, CDBG funding, for all types of projects. It could be for a youth-related project, a youth center, youth services. It could be, and different organizations would submit proposals and say, can you fund my project? Can you fund, this entity? And that's what we're looking for when we talk about the buckets of money. The categories are broad. But when we look at specifically in the city of Pontiac, how do we want to utilize these one-time funds? And again, as Matt is saying as well, to leverage. Just because we've got our city funds, we can leverage with some funding from the county, some funding from the state, and also even tap into other nonprofits. So this is how we want to really be creative and maximize this one-time bucket of money. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but
something similar. Yes, yes. But
So
I'm really concerned because we have a very active association in the city of Pontiac. And I'm always interested in revitalizing our neighborhoods because I think that's how our city to grow. Because we have to revitalize it. I don't think enough has been done in our neighborhoods. And I just want to know, in the past, when for citizen relief, rent, or utilities, or when we have blight in the neighborhood, there's a certain home that we've complained about, but nothing is done. So I'm just wondering if the money can be used, some of the funds can be used, not only just with your office, but creating a position specifically for the concerns that we as concerned citizens still have here in the city of Pontiac.
If I could, so you're so on point. It's great. I love that you're seeing this the need that we have. And so, as the city went through emergency management, which we all hated what happened there, we got really small but really mighty. And so Lynette's department is actually supposed to have a deputy director and other staff. I see Miriam out there somewhere is really the only kind of part-time staff that they have. And so one of the ideas that we've been formulating, and we all met on it today, was, could we spend some of this money to create a greater collaboration? Meaning, can we bring in the resources that we do have, not only staff resources, but community resources? Because right now they're all disjointed. Nobody's really talking to each other. So we've got really strong code enforcement, but they can't get everywhere. Vern oversees code enforcement, and so maybe they can't get to the blighted houses, not because they're ignoring or don't want to. It's just a matter of resources. And that's not an excuse. It's just we're building our way out of our past, our immediate past. And so one of the ideas is well, let's use this money to build a stronger coalition. Maybe we have a more autonomous authority for community and economic development that the state or the city economic development would be a part of, the chamber would be a part of. We would invite key homeowners associations around the city to be part of something like that. So that's one of the ideas. And so if your idea is, how do we get a stronger voice for everyone? We want to hear your creativity. So how would we do that? So you said, well, could there be a position? The only challenge with the position, it would be temporary. So because this is a one-time allotment of money, if we were to say we're going to create a unique liaison to help us become really more proactive with our neighborhoods and really more proactive in knowledge about that, if it was really specific to that, it would be hard to continue and sustain that long term because Vern's department is short and the city attorney is short and Lynette is bow by herself, and so the prioritization of it. And so the idea of it would be is not to create a position, but to create more of a collaboration on how we could work more efficiently and how we could build something that would be a stronger department in the future so as we grow. Now, one of the great things that is we brought in, the mayor brought in Alex Borngesser. So we had lost our CDBG administration to Oakland County during the emergency management. So one of our goals is to bring that back to the city of Pontiac. We should be administering our own community development block grant, which would solve some of this, because we're not Flint, because Flint still manages itself, so it can get more creative in the way that it administers those dollars. We give our community development block grant money to the county, and so it's not anybody's fault. It's just something that happened 10 years ago. But you know what? Alex, who I love and is so talented, and I'm so happy that she's with the city, is now formulating this plan going forward into the next year of how do we bring that back to us. And as we do that, ideas like yours, maybe it's not ARP money, maybe it's through the work that they're doing and bringing and onboarding that CDBG program. So as we do breakouts in a few minutes, which we will just for a few minutes, write some of those ideas down. Say, listen, maybe a position, maybe a collaboration, or maybe what you're thinking. So.
If I could help out, first let me just acknowledge some of these residents are from District 5, where Chief Thompson used to be the police chief, and Ms. Jean Matthews is the president of Heritage Hills Association. It's a very strong group. And to your answer, Chief, this money, we can't use it to create additional, I hate to use the word debt, but if you take this money and just like say we bring back the Pontiac Police, then that money can't be used for that because you got to pay for it down the line. And then during the training that we had from the Fed, it's also stated that we can't use this money for roads. unless we can figure out if there is a drainage problem within Galloway Estates, because I am aware that we want those roads dedicated to the city. So, Chief, I will suggest that you talk to Abdul that maybe there may be a strategy plan to work that out. And to Ms. Matthews, the reason these town halls are established is, like they said, is what we call building the plane as we go. And so this money is for you guys to tell us what you want it used for. And so if it's for economic development or neighborhood blight or what have you, yes, they're taking it in, and absolutely we're going to do something with it with council's approval. As with Alex and I, we've been working diligently with Ewart Center. And so not only do we have the funds to renovate Ewart Center that the council has put aside, we also can use some of the ARP dollars to do the state-of-the-art expansion to make new technology in there, and those dollars can also be used for that. I just don't want it to be where we take the dollars and create more debt down the line for one-time lump sum payment. But it's great to invest our dollars in something that's definitely needed. And so to all the even associations from Fieldstone, Birchcrest, Stonegate, Galloway Estates, and those that may not have had their streets dedicated or done, now I suggest that we get together and come up with a strategy plan and show how these streets and the drainage and these streets is not being done, and how it's inconvenience to the neighbors or to the residents. That's what we bring to the body, and then we'll go and figure it out, can these things be done? So right now, Ms. Matthews, we don't have really agenda to how to spend it. So the mayor said, let's come to the community and see what you guys want to spend this money. And so what they do, they'll take the information, and then we'll come with a plan presented to the city council on what you guys suggested. So I just wanted to get clear. I heard what you were saying, and I know what you stand for. And the answer to your question is yes, yes, and yes. And the answer to your question, Chief, is yes, no, and maybe. Yeah. Yes.
One more thing, back to you, Ms. Matthews, in terms of just like the positions, because when we talk about like what we can use ARP funds for, but we also have other sources. Like this year, we actually applied for appropriation funding through our state senator, through Brenda Lawrence's office, Stabenow, and who was the third person? Yeah, and Gary Peters. So for different projects within the city that, again, we couldn't do through our general fund with our limited CDBG, which we did some, blight removal, but those are other sources. And, as Matt said, I mean, our team is, is tiny. Like economic development and community development actually got combined into one position. And so, as we add, people on and then just like work diligently to just, move things along and to get things done. I mean, we're really like almost just getting going. Just the fact that different people came on at different times. Like Alex, was fairly new. I mean, I came on, not all that long ago. And now we're like, okay, let's do this. Let's try to do that. And just move, the city along. We are excited about the future and using various sources of funding to just expand on what we have. And I am respectful. I know the contribution that your organization, that you make, your commitment and passion, to the city. So.
After this question.
Young lady's comment. It would be great if we did have something or a place like that at City Hall where everyone know it is at City Hall and we could come there. But there is an organization in Pontiac that's working to bring other nonprofits together, and it's called the Pontiac Community Collaborative Impact. And who funds them is the University of Oakland University and United Way. And they've been trying to get organizations all together so we don't have this fraction of who's doing what, so that they would be the place where we could get things done. They met at the Strand back in September. They have a meeting coming up this month. I believe it's this coming Thursday. I can give that to you, so that you'll know that there's another group. But they were so hidden, we would have never known that that's what their job was, to bring other nonprofits together. But that's a good point, and I appreciate Attorney Gibbs bringing that up. Now, here's my question. I'm not from District 5 or District 7. I'm from District 1. And I brought to the table in Pontiac back in 2016 the concern of Golf Drive. And I did meet with Mr. Saziki. He was very kind, and he came out and he saw the problem. So I really appreciated that. But at the time, back in 2016, I was told we had no dollars. But yet and still, we provided clearance for M1 course. Perfect, M1 course brings dollars in. But again, people were traveling Golf Drive, which was designed as a scenic route and not as a connector between M24 and M1, meaning Woodward and Telegraph. Well, it became that, and we did not, as a city, I guess, watch the traffic. So we had construction trucks coming through and 18-wheelers coming through, and those of us that are sitting right at Golf Drive in our subdivision got the blunt of these trucks hitting the road. And when I spoke, we could not get the street sweepers in because the road was so torn up from the concrete and the asphalt. But thankfully, the last person, and I will bring his name up, Mr. Rango, was very kind. He said, Mrs. Glass, we'll do what we can. And he was able to get the tar that you fill up the potholes with, but made sure that it was packed down versus thrown out from the truck into the hole, and the trucks came over, picked it all up, and made the problem bigger. So my question now with all of that goes back to Mr. Carrington and Mrs. Saziki. I understand that you have plans already in place with the dollars. Not with the dollars. Plans have already been in place, so you have monies to take care of those plans. So now with new plans coming on board, and we only have this one time, and we only have a shot at it for 3 years, we may not get all of our projects in place. So then what happens to a place like Golf Drive, which is now taking the blunt of M1 golf course and M1 race course, as well as, what's the new place that's just opened up? The mortgage place, where people are shooting through there as if it's a racetrack coming on Golf Drive. So much so now we did have speed bumps. Well, from the weight of the cars and the trucks, we don't have the speed bumps anymore because they've crushed down, and the street is beginning to crack in the middle. Initially, it was replaced with tar and made speed bumps. We put tar and made speed bumps. Now the speed bumps are no longer there because of the weight of the trucks. So my bigger question is, now that you've gotten all of this money, and this is a milestone for Pontiac to get that much money, because in 2016 we had no money, is what I was told. And now that we have it, and we've got all these projects coming, and everyone in here has a project, then what if we don't get our projects done?
So,
Yes. Yes.
so ma'am, as you said, I met you out there. We do have the project for Golf Drive planned for spring of '23. It's in our capital improvement plan. So it'll be major rehabilitation of Golf Drive and reconstruction of Bagley from Golf Drive north. So both those streets together will be packaged as one project. We're in the process of planning right now, and we have secured some funding from the state as well. So it takes some time to plan and design and all that. It will be under construction in spring of '23. That's the plan right now. Yes. Until then, we'll keep patching it as we need to.
So what we can do, Ms. Glass, is that we will report that to the sheriff. We do now have a new implemented traffic unit with 7 additional sheriff's deputies, and then we also have a waymaster. And so tomorrow, I definitely will get on that. And so before we leave, if I can get your number, and I'll follow up with you tomorrow after I made the proper contacts.
Really quickly, typically in our program, we do the breakout tables and we get up. We're a smaller group, and I'm not sure that that would be a good use of everyone's time. We are getting close to 7:30, and I like to have time integrity, and everyone wants to get home to their families. So what we can do is we can actually break out now and then end the program, and that way everyone has a chance to speak with the individual staff members directly and ask the questions, because it seems like we have pretty directed questions. Is everyone comfortable with that? And yep, and sure.
Just to make sure it's going to be carried out. That's the concern of everybody in Pontiac.
Okay, I'm the only politician on the dais here. So look at all the scaredy cats. So 100% yes. What we're doing as a staff and what the mayor is directing us to do is to gather as much information as we can. So there's been a lot of concern. Well, we got the first allocation of money in June of this year. Well, how come it hasn't been spent yet? Well, most cities that have gotten these allocations of money are just now starting to announce plans. We've been going through a transition in our leadership. And so what we're doing is we're gathering as much information as we possibly can. And each department is going to be formulating their own ideas to the new administration of how they've gathered this information and interpreted it. Everybody has been participating in these town halls in their own way. And so our job really on behalf of the city is to use our best knowledge to say to not only the current mayor and the administration and the council, but quite frankly to the next administration. Because we're only 7 weeks away. And we've got a Thanksgiving holiday and a Christmas holiday and a New Year's holiday. And, at some point I want to go sledding with my kid down the hill. I mean, there's lots of things going on, right? So we know that this information is being gathered not to make final decisions right now, but to carry this forward with the new council. We have a brand new council. We have a brand new mayor. And to bring this forward. But what really in hopes of getting this information is that we're not starting with that new administration, meaning, hey, here's what we heard from the community while all of you were so busy becoming our next leadership. And so it will continue and will carry on. Now, saying that, there are some critical things. Like on tomorrow night's council agenda, there's an opportunity. In this town, there's been a huge grassroots effort to try to have a skate park. Well, the skate park would be pretty good right now. If our young people could get occupied with riding skateboards and learning how to socialize and to getting out of this COVID, I think that's a pretty good thing. So there's an opportunity for us to consider spending a very small portion of the ARP money to help create matching funds to make that skate park a reality, at least the beginnings of it in our community. And so that project is not going to wait until the new administration because we would lose that opportunity. So Alex and her good staff, we're going to bring that forward tomorrow night at council. I'm really hopeful that our current council, even though they're all moving on to other advocacy roles in the community, that they would look at that really seriously and say, this is an opportunity for us. We've had young people and other people in the community really want to push that project forward. And here we have an opportunity. We've got $18 million in the bank. We've got matching money. We've got the ability to really do something unique, but it can't wait until January because the deadline is when, Alex? Yeah, November 30th. So the deadline is November 30th. So we will, as staff and as administration, bring forward those opportunities that come before us now, even all the way up until the beginning, to the end of the year, because if they're good for Pontiac and we can leverage some of this, then we're going to give it our best effort. And so a double-edged answer, right? You know that about me. I'm going to tell you the truth. That we're gonna try to grab those opportunities we can get right now, and hope like crazy that the political environment of administration and council doesn't frustrate those. And all of this great information we're gathering is going to be used now, and it's all going to go to Mr. Greimel. It's all going to go to that great council we're going to empower at the beginning of January, and we're going to be here as staff to say, here, it's the best ideas we have. And I know that about you too. There's always a follow-up. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. So one of the real significant things is the what happened to Pontiac at the beginning. And so Detroit didn't suffer a shortage in the allocation of money. So Detroit got, oh, you're going to get 860 million. Saginaw and Flint got 99 million. The first announcement to the city of Pontiac, you're going to get $5 million. So we, as both the mayor and the administration and staff, and particularly legal counsel and others, said, well, something went horribly wrong here. And so we spent at least a portion of the spring fixing that. And so that time where Detroit was able to say, oh, this is what our announcement's going to be, Mayor Duggan started really getting into it. We spent a very important amount of time to say, this is not right. Pontiac is not being treated fairly. And we took that time, and it resulted in a reallocation of 37.7 million. So we went from, what, 5.6 million to 37.7 million. And so it's not an excuse, but we had to take that time, because why would we hold a town hall if we're getting treated so unfairly? And so we lost a little bit of ground there. And then once we really in June understood what our allocation was going to be, it was the same time it came. So we were fixing things at the same time this money was getting distributed. And so working with Congresswoman Lawrence, Senator Peters, and others, we were fixing how much money Pontiac was going to get at the same time that it was getting distributed in other communities. And so it's not an excuse, it's just the reality of timing of things. And so then, you know, Pontiac had a pretty contested election at the beginning of August. And so do you hold town halls about American Rescue Plan money a week before there's a big contested election? You may have a different opinion than we did and the mayor, but the decision was we need to let the people decide on their leadership before we start going to them in community meetings at the end of July to ask about how should we spend the money. Now, it's a judgment call. Maybe we disagree on that, but the decision was to wait until the election, at least the primary, was through. All the time, I know that Alex and Lynette and everybody else were all getting pushed to start organizing the way town halls would look and to move forward with it, and then we've really pushed that through the fall. And so a lot of people say, well, why'd you wait so long? It wasn't that it was a wait so long. It was that the first part of it, we had to protect Pontiac, and we did. I mean, we increased it by $32.1 million in what Pontiac was awarded. It just took a little bit of time. We couldn't go to the community and start planning until we knew exactly what Pontiac was going to be protected against. And they were protected against really getting, I won't use bad language because you know me better than that, but it was not good the way we were being treated. And so here we are, we're playing very quick catch-up. We've got a brand new administration. I'm really excited about the new council that's coming in. And the old council's been great, but I'm always excited for energetic change. And so we have all of this information. We've got these really great targeted ideas, and we're going to roll forward. And, you know, come January, we're going to start rolling some of this stuff out, and Pontiac's going to start changing.
And also wanted to add, you know, when we look at the kind of the funding within the city and how we appropriate the money, council made a decision not to provide any appropriations of this money. So currently, no funds are, even though we have the money, no funds are available right now because council is required to provide budget appropriation, which they specifically chose not to do that when we passed the budget back in late June. And since that time, they've been pretty adamant against making any of those funds available. As Matt indicated, we do have a proposal on council's agenda tomorrow, but that's one of the things we've tried to balance. We don't want to mismanage expectations because need to make sure people understand that we currently, while we do have the money and the city does have the authority to spend those funds, currently as it stands right now today at this moment, we don't have the ability. We can have the greatest project in the world, but because council has not appropriated any of those dollars as we speak, we don't have the ability to fund anything right now. It would require a budget amendment from council for us to spend $1. So that was part of the process as well, us just trying to manage expectations, trying to work to see if we could get an agreement, I believe, between the administration and council to see what we could do between now and the end of this term that ends in December. But currently where we stand, that is not the case as of right now.
Add on to what Matt was saying, that the federal guidelines, as this bill was passed, there was no guidelines for how this was going to be spent. So the feds were making up their guidelines at the same time, and it took time for all those guidelines to come through. All the stuff that we're telling you, you can spend it in this area or spend it in that area and this area. That all took quite a few weeks to come through as well. So, we had the money before all of that was clear as well.
We're so pleased that we're back at City Council, or at the chambers at City Hall. Yeah, and so at 6 o'clock, and it.
No, 22, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and what I would say to that is, I mean, you did say, don't say just come to the meetings, but that is the reality, is the public is allowed to give public address at every single city council meeting, and the council does listen to everyone, and they know who elects them, and they do take everyone very seriously. And so I do think it's really important for everyone to come and make their voice known, especially when we have these concentrated projects like the skate park that we have on the agenda tomorrow night. It is, if everyone shows up from the community and says they want it and that this is the time to act, and right now we are able to do so in a way that leverages funds, just like what Matt was talking about, it can be very persuasive on the council.
out of respect for the time, and that is a great question, Ms. Clark, we're going to move forward with the workshop. And with your questions, that would be better suited for either the future council-elect and Mayor-elect Grimer on how they're going to cohesively work together, saying that a decision has made. But we want to thank our panelists and thank you guys for coming out and engaging in our ARP town hall. And so if we could, we can turn it back over to Alexandra so we can move forward because time of essence, so we can get the Salvation Army back to their building. Thank you.
Yeah, so typically we would do breakouts, but our conversation was so engaging, I didn't think it was necessary for us all to go to tables. If you have any ideas before we close out, feel free to write them on the stickies that are on each table and put them on the poster boards. I'm taking all of those home or back to the office. So, and kind of organizing them in a way that can be presented strategically and academically. We can all talk about the ideas that were recurring themes, things like that, and build a strategic plan forward with the new administration, like you mentioned. So I'll go ahead and close out our meeting. Thank you so much for your feedback and your input. All of us will be here for questions and conversation. And again, if you have any ideas or any of these white sheets that you want to give me that I can take back to the office and use in my data collection, that would be incredibly helpful.